You really don't like the moose?
No, I love the moose.
I think the moose is charming and tasteful. And it's subtle, too.
There's nothing subtle about moose.
Just so you know, I think there's a lot that's subtle about moose. They're very sensitive creatures as well. They don't like being quarantined any more than we do. They like wide open spaces. They're contemplatives who are made to roam, much like us. You see, there's more of the moose in us than first meets the eye.
So that's why the moose is everywhere.
The moose is everywhere because the spirit of the moose is one which we can identify with. Welcome back to episode 12 of Closing the Social Distance. You might notice that we're in new surroundings here, new digs, a new studio. And I thought that that's a good opportunity for Father Clement and me to talk a little bit about how this series works, practically speaking, and why we're doing it. So I think it looks pretty good. I don't know about you.
No, I think it looks great. I wish we had a bigger space.
I do too. But if wishes were horses, and all that. Maybe we could start off, before we get into some of the details of why we set things up here, we could just talk about the motivation for doing a series like this in the first place. It all just kind of came together, but there was some thinking behind it.
Well, in some ways, this is something we've kind of always imagined doing.
Yes.
Some of you might remember last summer we had the podcast, the book discussions, and it just seems like, one of the things that friars should be involved in is being in media. And
we're so irrepressibly photogenic that it is difficult to really keep the camera away.
It is.
We can't help that. That's just what God designed in all of this.
Yeah.
No, it's a cross, people. It's a cross. And yet, in the midst of it, with our faces, our voices for radio, it has been a lot of fun to be able to actually do this. I mean, I hate the circumstances in which we're doing this. Yeah. The fact that people are suffering, that it's such a terrible hardship, and that there's all this fear and anxiety around there. But on a real sense, the whole reason why we wanted to do this in the first place was to be able to reach out and be there with you as best we can. And we figured this is as good a way to make you feel like you're just here at the table in the Priory and talking with us.
Well, and it was kind of like, it was one of these moments where all of our velities about having a media outreach, about having regular programming, a digital Aquinas society, all of it was like, oh, we have to do this.
In fact, we have no alternative.
Yeah.
Thomistic timeout, velity means wish or desire. We'll now resume. I think that it's turned out really well. Not to say that we're perfect at it, and I know that sometimes we can be rambly, and sometimes the sound doesn't always work, but I've got to hand it to you, Father Clement. I could no more do this than levitate. I mean, you have a real gift for all of the technical aspects of this stuff, and it's impressive. You all can't see it now, but there is an array of professional lights, 3 different cameras, boom mics, a soundboard, the whole works. And it's kind of been accumulated at different points for the different projects we've worked on, and then a big spurt, to make it possible here. But how did you get into all this stuff?
By accident?
Well, I don't know. Are you trying to accumulate Best Buy rewards points or something? How did you develop an interest?
I'm far too disloyal for that. No, well, I started taking pictures in high school.
Sure.
And so photography's kind of been like this off and on hobby. And then it was while I was a deacon, one of the English friars who was studying with us, the great Father Lawrence Lew.
Indeed. He always deserves a bow of the head. On any Dominican media, Father Lawrence Lew is ahead of the game when it comes to media engagement.
He's not dead.
He's not dead. He's not dead. Very much not so. He's the rosary promoter for the whole order, in fact.
Yes, and the Rosary Chaplain of London.
Yes.
He
does a great job. He has some incredible media stuff and beautiful photography.
Yes. So he gave me he gave me a camera body that he was upgrading out of, and that kind of got me into photography. And then one of the places where you study photography these days is on YouTube.
Sure.
And the photography world and the videography world kind of blend there.
Sure.
So I started getting an interest in all this other.
Because I've noticed that at the St. Gertrude staff Christmas party for the past 2 years, they've given you something like tripods or different tools and things that you would use for cameras or video recording things. So it's definitely clear that you have a gift for this kind of stuff.
Well, and also Anna Maria puts extreme pressure to pick some things. I don't know what I want or need.
Fountain pens work too, but they aren't as useful in moments like these. Although that does remind me, I do have about 25 thank you notes to send. So I'm running criminally below my thank you notes.
So this, folks, is a sign of how incredibly busy we've been despite not having masses.
It is true. It is true. People know that I'm pretty assiduous about sending the thank you note, but I have not sent a single thank you note since January, and it just accumulates on the list. It's very stressful. But I have to say that one of the things we've done today, with the help of some of the brethren here in the house and our novices, is transition to a new studio. So for those of you who know the Priory, we're now on the first floor in it's called the Bishop's Suite. So it's the place where outside clergy would come and stay, and where the provincial would stay or bishops have stayed. So it's a common feature in religious houses, but it has a big kind of parlor room, and that's what we're recording in, and it affords more space.
So it means no bishops can visit us for a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, Your Excellencies. You're going to have to go ahead and take a rain check. This particular embassy suites is closed for the foreseeable future. But it was actually a lot of fun. Some people have noticed that, yes, Father Clement may be in charge of the technical side of things, but that does leave the feng shui to yours truly. And you'll observe tasteful objets d'art throughout the set here. Art Sacred, we're going to have an episode dedicated entirely to this beautiful icon, which was written by Jenny Ward, which actually I think was featured in the Angelico Project art show from this winter. It's entitled Tender Compassion. It's just splendid, but that's kind of our centerpiece right here. And hopefully Jenny will get us an icon for Easter, which will be appropriate for Easter season. But this is just such a beautiful icon. We have a Dominican Rite Missal, the Summa, and a bunch of other books. We have some Clooney media books. We have some St. Thomas things. And yes, we have a few little homages to our personal interests and inspirations.
No. Are you going to tell them about this Easter egg that you've planted for them here?
Which Easter egg? I'm not sure. Do you mean the walrus? Because the walrus is not really an Easter egg. Walruses are anything but Easter eggs.
I've been ignoring the walrus.
The walrus is lovely. I've named him Seymour. Seymour Tusks.
So he's opened this to the page for the canon of the Mass, the Eucharistic prayer, and tried to make it say, non missa, no Mass.
It just makes me sad, though, so still, I think that there's a lot of little things, and you'll notice that, of course, I can't really resist. So every single episode, I move something around or bring something new in. Today, I just added a statue of Winston Churchill behind me. So, there's always all sorts of new art, sacred and profane, here in the studio.
And there's llamas.
I love llamas, too. Llamas are very peaceful, Father Clement. You'll notice that llamas...
Contemplative animals.
They are contemplative. Have you ever gazed in the eyes of a llama?
I can't say that I have.
Which is a real loss on your part, but someday there are several alpaca and llama farms near us, so I'm hopeful that before I leave, we will have an occasion to go and commune with these noble creatures. Maybe we could give, as a way of wrapping up, a highlight of what some of the things we're hoping to do next are. I know that we're exploring, technologically speaking, how we might be able to have kind of video phone calls with some people who aren't in the Priory in order to be able to feature them on the show. What are some of the other ideas you have for the closing the social distance?
Well, so right now this is a pretty strictly offline process. We've got to sync up all these cameras and these audio after the fact. So that would be one hope, is to be able to hook it up so we can have a live connection and be able to interview somebody.
Sure.
I would like to develop more of this Ask Father Anything thing, almost as its own question
genre.
I fancy a day whereby we have time to like actually, research out said question and have nifty cutaways and video to back up everything in the question.
I think we're doing well to produce something every day at this point. But yes, it's true. We can all dream, Father Clement. We can all dream of having just a free day to spend on the back end of production here.
I remember when I was a kid and like dreaming of being a radio show host and imagining hours a day. And then I realized, no, 15 minutes takes us like 2 hours. So.
Yes. No, there's a lot of time that goes into these things. It is sad. I do think that we should start developing our own rivalry with EWTN. We should eventually spawn our own set of franchises and syndicated shows. Once we hit 100 episodes, we're going into syndication. You know that, right?
In syndication.
I really hope we don't hit 100 episodes personally, but we just have to be prepared. Hollywood may come calling.
Well, you're getting bored of talking to me.
We'll look forward to seeing you on our next episode of Closing the Social Distance. And until then, hope that you continue to enjoy these videos. Send us questions for Ask Father Anything, or even just comment on Flocknote. Know that we're praying for you, and please keep praying for us. And be assured, I'm not tired of talking to Father Clement. Yet. God bless you all. See you soon.
And you can always find more information in the links below.
Right over there, in fact.